Cadeler sees Taiwan as a pioneer offshore wind market in Asia, and also sees Taiwan's Cadeler is a gateway to Asia-Pacific markets. Taiwan is a key market where Cadeler's capability and is very much aligned in the long term of Asia-Pacific region.
If you look at Entity and Seajack's track record here in Taiwan, it's very strong. Also in Japan, Zaratan built the first Japanese wind farm, both the foundations and the turbines. Seajack's also did work in China, so really the track record within the APAC market is very strong considering how early in offshore winds development this part of the world is. And I think in the course of doing many of those projects, there's been so many lessons learned that we can use to build a really strong foundation upon.
So Cadeler brings decades of turbine installation and other types of installation know-how from a very experienced market from Europe basically. This very complex offshore installation work has been practiced repeatedly and successfully from Europe. All these expertise are needed here in Asia, including Taiwan and remaining region. Having said so, they are specifically proven technology of the fleets, operation, also engineering excellency, project management, planning, and also knowing the market, be specific to the market. All these are requirements to be successful.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, as I mentioned earlier, the track record already in Taiwan is quite long for Cadeler and prior to Cadeler Seajack. So there's a lot of knowledge that's been taken from those projects operating in a place like the Taiwan Strait, where, as you mentioned, the geological conditions are completely different from the North Sea. Seismic risk here is a huge thing, as in Japan, and it's not in the North Sea. So really, how do we build an operation here that takes that into account and does so in a way that we can manage our risks? I think that's something that we've learned through doing. That means that we're now in a very strong position to actually take advantage of that knowledge and that experience in future projects. How we bring or marry that expertise with local talent, I think, is a really important question, because to be sustainable here as a company in the long term, I think we understand that we need to grow our local team and build that capacity locally. Currently, a lot of the services that we engage with in order to understand the geology of the place is outsourced as an industry, to experts from Europe. But I can definitely see a case where companies like DNV and other service providers who provide project certification, seismic studies, starting to shift some of that work into Taiwan and the Asia region over the long term. From a vessel owner's perspective, Asia is very unique because, US aside, the Europe market kind of behaves as a whole. It's obviously different countries within the market, but it's one market in the sense that we can shift a vessel from the UK to Germany to Denmark with relatively little friction, whereas here in Asia, it's a different picture completely. Getting a vessel into a particular jurisdiction is difficult. It's often costly. You need to do things like reflagging, which brings with it a whole package of other challenges to solve. It actually reduces the economies of scale the industry would otherwise benefit from. So you need, rather than an Asia strategy, you kind of need an individual country strategy within your Asia strategy. So yeah, far more complex.
Of course, this is a very critical question. Cadeler recognizes building a very resilient, if you can say, and efficient supply chain through our experience from Europe. Especially here, we are trying to establish ourselves here as a hub for Asia Pacific. On that perspective, this becomes ultimately important. The company's strategy is trying to connect its global already exists supply chain and apply the same methodology, the capability with the local Taiwanese partner. So both sides, multiple sides are benefit from the practice. and from the experience. Having said so, there are a few points to be mentioned. The global procurement logistic practice leveraging, joint development servers, or even to a further extent some equipment specialized here in the region, and also trying to align the global project timeline. So there are projects here in Asia some of the years, whereas some of the years it's more busy in the North Sea. So suppliers being through with Cadeler can also be brought to the global market.
It depends to some extent on the scopes that we win in the region. So in Europe, for example, we're doing a lot of foundation T&I, full T&I scopes, which obviously brings a much larger supply chain requirement, for example, turbine installation does. So if that's a direction that we move in the region, then it's, from a Cadeler procurement perspective, it's going to open up a lot more opportunities. On the turbine side, which is primarily what we are doing in the region, like I say, it's fewer procurement opportunities, but they are still there. And one of the big ones for us is on sea fastenings for the turbine components on deck. That's something that we currently do find difficult to procure here in Taiwan, but I do think it's also a fantastic opportunity for the right suppliers to chase after, because it's a scope that multiple vessel owners need for each project. These are large ticket items, you know, we spend a lot of money on them, and it's highly skilled work. So whereas currently we procure from a place like Singapore, to be able to do that here in Taiwan or closer to Taiwan in the long term would create much more efficiency, I think.
For Cadeler, the key areas are not surprisingly from three parts basically. One is from carbon reduction, another one is marine protection, and then fishery industry coexistence. So I think those are the areas where we are striving for. Having said so, Cadeler is on a very clear mission that we want to support global transition renewable energy future to serve as a very key player in the offshore sectors. And we do have our commitment set it also in our stakeholder report that in the 50% of reduction of emission by 2030 and then net zero operation by 2035. So those are very clearly being set.
I think we're trying to achieve it in many different ways. So to take one example, we're currently building and have recently taken delivery of a number of new vessels. The technology that's incorporated within those vessel designs is at the forefront of the industry in terms of vessel design and vessel fuel efficiency and things like that. Also, you know, they're kitted out to be ready to be methanol use at some point when that becomes practical. We're kind of preparing for future fuels that will reduce our carbon footprint. But we're also subject to all of the environmental impact assessment criteria that clients are. So, you know, whatever they've agreed to do as part of their project permitting process, we are also bound by those same conditions. So we have to act in line with those to make sure that, you know, ocean biology, etc., fishermen relations and things are respected and advanced wherever possible. It's a good question. In terms of the vessels themselves, I'm not certain. We build our vessels in China and Korea. We are building our vessels in China and Korea. They're built to international standards, and I think we've seen Chinese shipyards kind of continuously striving to achieve international standards on in terms of the environmental impact of the vessels that they're building, and the same in Korea. So I would say that things are moving in that direction. Fuel efficiency, for example, it's not just an environmental thing, it's a cost thing. If we're more efficient on fuel consumption, then it's good for everybody. I think in terms of the environmental impact assessment conditions on projects, it does differ from place to place. I think Taiwan has actually taken a very stringent approach to it, particularly with regards to marine biology. Japan and Korea seem to have a bit more of a stringent approach with regards to people living near the coast. So priorities are slightly different in different places, but I think Taiwan has, in my opinion, a very good balance, particularly around, for example, the dolphin protection. I think that that's been a really interesting and positive thing to see.
Cadeler is building a robust Asia-Pacific strategy, with Taiwan being chosen due to the geographic location being in the center. So the new office will play a very focal role in the region. The project deliver talent development, supply chain, integration, and the long-term market growth. All of these are focus for the office. Expanding fleet and forward-looking, even more strategy being implemented here locally. Cadeler is very well positioned and capture the overall offshore wind growth from here, Taiwan, to the whole APAC. So Taiwan is not just a project location. Taiwan is also a regional headquarters and a strategy operation hub. Having said so, the vision for the office over the end of the decade, Asia Pacific is looking forward to have a significant share of the whole company in terms of business, in terms of project, to be specific.
I think there's a few reasons. The first reason is that the Taiwan market has matured now enough, 6 years into commercial scale offshore wind in Taiwan. Many projects have taken place. We've built up a strong track record in the process, lots of challenges overcome and lessons learned. What we're now seeing is markets like Korea and Japan taking more concrete steps to actually getting to project execution stage. Korea in particular, I think, will be the next market to really start building out their pipeline of projects. And in that context, trying to firstly build on our presence here in Taiwan and expand our pipeline, while also trying to break into a market like Korea. It makes sense at this point in time to try and expand our presence at our APAC headquarters.
So the new office is not just about square meter, it's about capability. The new office is giving us room to grow our local force, host our clients, to be near to our partners, to run multiple projects in the same region in the Asia Pacific. It's also symbolized that we show Cadeler's long-term commitment to the region. It's a signal that Cadeler is here to stay and is ready for the scale. In short, this is a foundation for the new chapter of the company in Asia Pacific offshore wind.
I think just to repeat or reiterate what I said earlier, it's really about building on the foundation that we've already built here in the Taiwan market and using that as a base to expand from into other markets as they come online. I think I mentioned Korea already. Japan, I think, is still a potential opportunity for us. You have markets like the Philippines and Vietnam. I think the Philippines seems a bit more progressed than Vietnam at this point. And then further down the line, Australia. I wouldn't say it's particularly convenient from anywhere. Yeah, Taiwan's certainly closer than Europe is.